Hello, bonsoir, and welcome to the Get French Football News Show. I'm your host, Nathan Staples, and joining me this week are Eric Devin and Philippe Bargil. We have just taken the penultimate lap of the Ligue 1 circuit, and with the finish line in sight, teams have one more chance at glory or despair. But before we look at all the different permutations of a final week of the season, here are the latest headlines. With the final two match days of Ligue 1 being played at once, fans of France's top flight have to wait until Saturday evening to get their football fix, with much of the focus on Lyon, as a visit from Monaco saw both teams enter the match level on 62 points. A win for either side poised to essentially confirm entry to the Champions League group stages next season. The hosts proved more than up for that occasion, extending their best home record in the league extending the best home record in the league in 2016 with a 6-1 win. A pair of strikes challenges from Lessine Traoré, seeing the Big Ivorian sent off on 23 minutes with Lyon already 2-0 up. Alexandre Lacazette ran the show with a hat-trick, while defender Mapu Yenga and Biwa added a pair of goals as well. Nice stole a march on Saint-Etienne when Les Verts visited the Allianz Arena, winning 2-0 to leapfrog France's hottest team, courtesy of a late Valère-Germain brace. The Monaco loanee setting a career best in the top flight with his 13th and 14th goals of the campaign. The result sees Nice into 4th and forces Monaco to beat Montpellier to hold on to 3rd place. In other matches of importance to the European race, hapless Rennes lost 2-0 at Montpellier, officially confirming their elimination from European football, thanks to Lille earning a point at home in a scoreless draw against Guingamp. In the relegation battle, Toulouse have unbelievably moved above the dotted line on goal difference. Oscar Toiho scoring a goal powering the hosts past Troyes by a goal to 0. And on 2 level points with Gazalec Ajaccio, who was soundly beaten at home to PSG 4-0. Champions backed by an Edison Cavani hat-trick. Marseille were, like PSG, similarly unkind, recording that elusive home win over Reims 1-0, with Michy Batshuayi on target for the 17th time this season, a result which sees the Champagne club slip into 19th, but just a point behind their two rivals. The other 3 matches pitted together a sundry assortment of clubs with little to play for. Bordeaux beating Lorient 3-0 at home, Caen winning 2-1 at Nantes, and Bastia defeating Angers 1-0 in Corsica. In Ligue 2, Metz all but confirmed promotion with a 4th win in a row, a defeat of Tours, which sees the club claim 3rd spot barring a 7-goal swing in goal difference between themselves and a valiant Le Havre. Nancy confirmed the 2nd division title, with Metz still able to catch Dijon in 2nd on the final day of the season on Friday. At the bottom end of the table, Niort confirmed their safety with a huge win over Créteil, while Evian's loss to Nancy sees the club staring down a 2nd consecutive relegation, 3 points behind Sochaux in 18th. And that's this week's news. But remember, to keep up to date with all the latest going on in the world of French football, head on over to our website at www.getfootballnewsfrance.com and follow us on Twitter at GFFN. We start this week by looking at what could happen on that final match day of the Ligue 1 season. The championship is tied up, but both the European places and the bottom 3 are yet to be finalised, with plenty of potential outcomes, but we shall start with the top end of the table and Lyon's emphatic 6-1 win against Monaco that all but sealed that 2nd place. Philip, how big was that win for Lyon?
Yeah, football won on Saturday evening. I was extremely happy to see a Lyon side just free to play their own football as they have been for a couple of games. Their season is really two halves that don't really look look like each other. And since Genesio took the reins, it has been much more enthusiastic, and Gezal has improved. Lacazette has been scoring goals. Cornet has not been playing too badly. Dade has been playing better, and you saw all this kind of enthusiasm, the sort of enthusiasm of last season, and I've always been of the opinion was Monaco being second was more other sides like Lyon just not turning up, and I think for the last few months of the season, especially when they beat PSG at home, I reckon they showed that they are the second best team in the league, and this shows by the amount of goals they're scoring. The defense has gotten better. Younger Mbiwa was absolutely shocking in the first half of the season. He hasn't been as bad in the second half of the season, and it's just great to see Lyon going back to their rightful spot, I think, because I do believe this squad is the second best squad in Ligue 1. So it's honestly great news. It's good to have them to keep having them in the Champions League. Hopefully they'll do better next season than they did this season, where they finished bottom. The summer is also going to be extremely exciting regarding players like Lacazette. Generally, actually good news for French football.
Yeah, and it was a good sign for Lyon, who've been struggling all season, really, Eric, for consistency, but recently have hit that vein of form we all expected. But they really thumped Monaco in a game that was really, really important to both sides. I mean, it shows the character they've built over the last couple of weeks, doesn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't just I mean, again, it was an offensive display, but it was a complete performance from Lyon. I mean, the fact that they were just outplaying Monaco in every phase of the game, defensively and going forward, shows the energy that they're getting from the Stade de Lumiere. As you mentioned in the introduction, they're undefeated in the league at this new stadium. The more their performances continue to improve, the more fans are getting behind the club, and it's making it at the level that the old stadium was on its best nights, and that's the sort of thing that this team need. I mean, this team, Lyon as a club have really suffered over the past 6 or 7 years. Probably dating back to when they bought Johan Gorkrup and how that didn't work out, and placed them in a bad situation financially, and the number of players they've needed to unload. And yes, they had some exciting young players coming through, but injuries have been an issue for a lot of them. I'm thinking of the likes of Clement Grenier and Gueda Fofana, players that had done well, but seen their careers sort of dashed, and it didn't seem like much was going right for the club. Yet again, last season's performance was inspirational, but the way this season started, particularly in the Champions League, they couldn't really have asked for a better draw, and just to see that the performance in the group stage be so ineffectual, I think it really put a damper on the way this team was, and the thinking began to become that it was last season just really a flash in the pan. But again, to respond in what's easily their biggest match of the season in such a comprehensive and complete way, shows a great credit to the players and a great credit to the work that Genesio has done to, again, as Philip said, to really improve some of these players who had been sort of persona non grata in the first half of the season. Dade and Young Mbiwa are the greatest examples of that, but Rachid Ghazal as well really came out of nowhere. He was starting almost by default around the turn of the season just because of the injuries he had. And now looks to be once again one of France's best young players, which is where he was regarded 2 or 3 years ago. And yeah, the future is bright for Lyon. Even if Lacazette does go in the summer, which I hope he doesn't, I think this team has a real chance to make an impact in the Champions League, and maybe dare I whisper it, give PSG a little bit more of a battle for the title than they did this season.
Should be less than 30 points a gap next season, hopefully.
Should be less than 30 points.
Yeah, hopefully.
That can be the hope, at least. At least it might be a closer race. But you mentioned there, Lacazette, he's the real X factor, and he's really turned it on in the last couple of weeks. And the hat trick was really the cherry on top of the cake for him at the moment in his form. And it's good to see them really pretty much seal that spot. They would need it's a ridiculous swing in Monaco's favour. They would need to lose, and Monaco would need to win by at least 23 goals. I think that one might be sewn up. I think, but. You never know. You never know. But
which is pretty much half their goals.
Yeah, which means that they would have to have an absolute blinder against Montpellier, and they would have to drift off. But talking
of, have to lose at Reims.
Which is
talk about this later, but after such an emphatic win, will they be okay? We're second. Let's take the foot off the pedal, and let Reims have their last win. Whether that will be useful or not, but I really can't see Monaco finishing second. No, that's for sure.
Well, the real question now is they've petered in the last sort of few weeks. Monaco, they've just about hung on to those Champions League places. Now, if they don't win at Montpellier, and heaven forbid they even draw at Montpellier, then Nice have a real chance of stealing that third spot. They have a 11 plus goal difference on Monaco, and a win combined with either a Monaco draw or a defeat will put them above them. Could Monaco slip out of those Champions League places, Philip?
You know what? I really don't know, because Monaco's form has not been very good. And I reckon Montpellier has a kind of form, a side who is accustomed to struggling at the bottom, but who has been safe for a couple of games. And we saw that at Reims, where they won completely against the odds. I think they were already pretty much safe when they went to Reims. But it's that kind of form they are in. Say, okay, so last game of the season, let's have some fun, no pressure. No, just no worries. Well, Monaco have trouble scoring goals, have had trouble scoring goals all season, and I can actually see Monaco not winning this game. It's Nice winning at Guingamp that I'm quite skeptical about as well. So it could be a case of Monaco and Nice not winning, either of them not winning, which would be a bit of a shame though. But again, the same question is, who do we want in third? Do we want Monaco or Nice? Monaco have been in the playoff last season. Nice have not had European football in a while. How are they going to manage that? Is Ben Arfa going to stay? And so on and so on. But selfishly, I would probably say Monaco is more experienced, are better equipped to win that playoff. It would be really good for French football that they won it, because it's been 4 years, even 5 years that we lost that playoff. So last season we were against Valencia. Lyon lost it to Sociedad a few years back. It was just it would. I think Monaco would be more equipped, but I don't know. I can sense a surprise. I can sense Monaco not winning, or at least not winning it easily, not having it easy.
So, Eric, let's talk about the possibility of Monaco even missing out. I mean, they barely turned up to the game at the weekend, which would have sealed third, and even a draw would have been a real plus point. But how much of a blow would it be if they missed out on Champions League football?
I think it would have to. Rivlov would have to really consider the nature of the project. I mean, granted, this team have really been undone by injuries this season. I think just about every significant outfield player has missed some bit of time, even if it's just a month. But particularly Thomas Silva, Adama Traore, Timuye Bakayoko, they've had quite a few injuries, and that coupled with the loss of Anthony Martial right at the end of the season, it's just been a lot for Jardim to overcome. And I think that the assumption was on the part of Rivlov that was, if we have all this talent coming in, and we're able to overcome what's a middling rest of Ligue 1, but the fact of the matter is, you have teams that have really coalesced in a way that's been surprising. That being Nice and Saint-Etienne, and I think that as uneven as Monaco have been, it's not been enough. in a league that's produced a handful of surprises this season. And if the club do find themselves on the outside looking in, I think they have to really question their transfer strategy. I mean, even before the selling of the likes of Martial and Abdenor, they were still they were still in the green or in the black overall in the transfer market, if you will. And there was really no need to have sold those last two players at the time they did. I mean, had they held on to Martial and Abdenor, they would have been a little bit tighter at the back. They would have had more of a focal point going forward. And I think that, if Rybolovlev does want to continue this project with Monaco, I think he needs to be a little bit more appreciative of the general standard of Ligue 1. The club have had a bit of an easy walk in there since returning from Ligue 2 a few years ago, and I think that this season's been perhaps a little bit of a wake-up call as to what level of play they need to be at. And again, the injuries have been an issue for the club, but the simple fact of the matter is, you need to be able to keep more key players. It can't be just solely turning players over. Kadogby has another absence as well that I think has been really keenly felt. So, I think a more holistic view needs to be taken by the hierarchy at Monaco if indeed they do miss out on the Champions League. If they make the playoffs, again, I give them a good chance. They have a good coefficient. I think they would probably be seeded, depending on who their opposition is, which would give them a good chance to progress. But again, French clubs haven't had the best record in that level of the competition since France dropped to sixth. I don't think that any team has advanced into the group stage from the playoff round. If I'm recalling correctly, that'd be Lyon, Lille, and Monaco have all lost at that stage since France slipped to sixth in the coefficient.
Well, we've briefly mentioned another team that might usurp them, and that's Nice. They've been on a really good run to end the season, although they've had a couple of slip-ups, but they've managed to keep in there, Philip. And if they did make the Champions League, although there's a lot of clubs sniffing around him, would Ben Arfa consider staying?
I think he would, depending on who wants him. A lot of people are saying Barcelona is a good proposition for him, and quite frankly, I'm inclined to agree with this free-flowing, lots of quick passing and very very sharp dribbling skills. I think he'd fit right in. I think he'd learn quite a lot from all the players around him. I think a lot of I don't think he's suitable for a lot of other clubs. And if the chairman says, okay, I can give you the same money for another season, and if you don't like it, if we're in a bad run, you can leave in January for a lot of money and basically get us lots and lots of cash. It could happen, but I really think that he would possibly going to a side like Barcelona. Could be heading to La Liga. I just don't believe in a Premiership return after what happened in England. I think he's up for a new challenge, a new league, shall we say? And that I think the league suits him. Eric, obviously you watch more La Liga stuff than me. I don't know if you agree.
Sorry, the Jardim should leave?
No, Ben Arfa.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I did see that. Yeah, I think that for a player at his point in his career, it makes more sense that he could be, sort of the wily veteran off the bench, filling that role that Pedro had. Yeah, absolutely.
Or maybe Atletico or something like that. Well, maybe it's a bit too defensive, too physical. Liga is quite physical, and he's not doing too bad. So maybe a side like this, I don't know. I think those two sides are really the two sides that could suit him very, very well. I just don't, I don't know how the news are going in England, Nathan, but I just don't see a Premiership return.
No, I don't think there's been any flutters recently of Premiership movement other than
not decent rumours, that is.
No, nothing as concrete as the Barcelona ones at the moment. Rumours that he's had interviews and stuff. But Eric, I do want to get your thoughts about Nice's season overall. Really, I think we can all agree that they've probably been the surprise of the season, regardless of if they finish in those Champions League places, haven't they?
Yeah, I think that things looked like a little bit dour with the injuries that they'd suffered. Pardon me, to the likes of Alassane Plea, but the players that they brought in, the likes of Ricardo, Paul Baïs, even Valère Germain, they've been really canny in the transfer market to provide Hatem Ben Arfa with a really dynamic team to give him the platform on which to build. Pardon me, on which to build his success. And it hasn't been perfect for the team. I mean, Mikhail Lebihan was brought in from Le Havre, and he's been injured. But the way the clubs operate in the transfer window, the way the team play an attractive style of expansive football, I think they've really done well to construct this team in a way that's gonna allow them to continue to be successful going forward. It would be a huge blow if Ben Arfa were to leave, but I think that the confidence instilled in a lot of these younger players, or players that haven't had much experience in Ligue 1, is really impressive to see. I mean, Jean-Michel Seri has gone from basically nowhere to being full players international. Remy Walter, brought in from Nancy, I think has a lot of potential to continue to develop, and this team is just, I think, is going to continue to be one to watch, and one that's really emblematic of the way that success can be achieved in French football through exciting mix of young and unheralded players. I mean, France has always been the country that's willing to do the legwork to bring these players out from other more lightly regarded leagues and lightly regarded teams, and to get a level of success that provides for attractive attacking football. Whether or not that can be sustained, going into the next season is another question. I mean, there'll be a little bit of a target on their backs, if you will, and it remains to be seen what their clubs will do in the summer. But I think overall it's been a really impressive season from the club, and from Claude Puel. I mean, he's a manager whose reputation has been variously damaged at other stops. I mean, basically being run out of Lyon, despite the success that he'd had at the team. I think his approach sort of left a few of those players from his time at Lyon feeling a little burnt out on his methods. But with generally a younger team, I think that his particular approach to players on a personal level, I think, is working wonders and really bringing the best out of a lot of these players who had been sort of not really on the radar of a lot of clubs. I mean, it's a credit. We're seeing news that Porto want to cut short Ricardo Pereira's loan. I mean, that's a credit to how well he as individuals developed. I mean, Porto are a team that are regularly, again, not having the best season, but are regularly in the Champions League. And if they think he's of the quality that they should bring him back, I mean, that's another feather in Puel's cap in terms of how he's developed him as a player this season.
And I think, like you mentioned, then it's really been a terrific season for them, and they've been very clever in the transfer market to get the players that have really pushed them on this season. But like Philip said, they may have a banana skin against Guingamp, and if they do lose, that opens the door for Saint-Etienne to go above them. They have a game against Lille that will be very important to both clubs. If Lille beat Saint-Etienne, they will finish fifth. It gets strange that how many teams can jump each other, Philip. But
what's really the difference? Who gets direct access to the Europa League, or does everyone get the playoffs?
I believe
fourth place gets direct access.
Yes.
Okay, and then fifth and sixth. Does it make a difference who finished fifth and sixth?
Fifth are definitely in Europa League, but in a qualifying stage, I believe sixth.
And sixth, two rounds.
Yeah. Not. Yeah. It may be an extra couple of rounds.
Okay, so that would be some kind of equivalent of when you were playing the Intertoto Cup last tie, and basically replacing your friendlies with playing against European minnows, because you had this. It's not when Montpellier won the league. I think they finished fourth or something, maybe fifth. And they did have to play aside from Hungary, I believe, in the last qualifying round. So it was a round before the playoffs, and they lost that. So Ligue 1 sides sometimes prefer to say no to Europe, full stop. And I I don't think either Antonetti or Galtier are that kind of managers, but we don't really know if Galtier is going to stay. I think Antonetti staying is pretty sure, but hopefully nobody does that. And I believe Nice, Saint-Etienne, and Lille are not not bad sides to represent France in the Europa League next season.
And very quickly, Eric, on Lille, if they did win that game against Saint-Etienne and go above them, it will mark an incredible rise, really, from when they looked like they might struggle for goals and struggle to really get anywhere in the league to possibly be finishing fifth and having a comfortable Europa spot.
Yeah, I think it's a great credit to Antonetti. I mean, this team's always had the tools defensively in terms of Enyama, Basha, the youngster Adama Sumaro, Renato Savelli to be, one of the and two decent fullbacks too, in Corsia and Sidibe. But they looked a little bit at sea in attack. I mean, Boufal had been good, but was really doing it on his own. But the way that this team has really coalesced among after bringing in the likes of Adair and Ronnie Lopez in the winter window, I think that they've really got things going right in attack, and it's been pleasing to watch. I mean, it's been a long time, maybe since even dating back to the spell of Eden Hazard at the club, but we can say that hey, Lille are a decent team to watch. They've got some great attacking talent, and even if Boufal does leave, I think that there's a lot of younger talent there that can continue to give the team enough interest going forward. Maybe another year on loan for Ronnie Lopez. Maybe continuing development of the likes of Talo, Nangis, Baptiste Guillaume. There's a lot of potential here, particularly if Etienne sticks around. He knows how to get the job done in terms of the league table, so relegation wouldn't be a worry as it had been earlier in the season. And pardon me, who knows? Maybe they might be able to spring a surprise in Europe as well.
Yeah, and it would be interesting to see if they do win that final game and really show a remarkable rise over the second half of the season. But as for things at the bottom of the table, it all comes down to one game. Toulouse leapt out of the bottom three with a win against Troyes, and 3 more points against Angers will guarantee Ligue 1 football for them next season. If they draw or lose, it will give Gazlec Ajaccio and Stade de Reims a chance, with the latter needing a win to stand any chance of survival. So we'll start with Toulouse. Philip, how important was that win at the weekend?
This was the first time Toulouse were out of the bottom three since October 23rd, which was a bit more than half the season. And it was massive. You could see that. So this was against Troyes, who will become the worst team ever in Ligue 1 history if they don't beat Marseille next Sunday. And you could sense that it was a banker home win. Toulouse were favourites to win it, but it was extremely nervy, and the chances weren't aplenty, shall we say? And Troyes didn't particularly defend better than they defend every week. But it was still nervy, and they still had to keep their cool, and they still had to get those 3 points because Reims lost at Marseille. Marseille won a home game, which needs to be said. It hasn't happened since August, I believe. So, well done to them. Reims lost at Marseille, and Gazellec got severely punished by PSG. We talked about this last week. I didn't really expect PSG to destroy Gazellec, but it did happen. So yeah, it's in Toulouse's hands, and really well done to Duprat for already achieving this feat, because I honestly believe that Toulouse were already going down given the run-in they had, even though with a change of management, and Duprat managed to at least make them having a fighting chance. Now, what they need to do is win at Angers, which is not easy. Angers only lost 4 times at home in the league, which is the best, shall I say, best figure outside the top 3, except with loads of other sides who lost 4 home games in the league. It has some kind of nervy 0-0, really tight game written all over it. But I also believe, and I think if it's going to happen, it's going to happen with a very tight game concluded by a 1-0 goal from Wissam Ben Yedder or maybe Trejo. The other factors are I don't particularly see Gazellec winning at Lorient. I can maybe draw. Why not? And are Lyon just going to not care about that last game at Reims, like we said before? I really don't think so. I really think it doesn't look right now. It doesn't look likely. Reims lost to a shockingly bad Marseille side at home, and Lyon just defeated. Monaco in what was the biggest win of the season, bar PSG's 9-0 win at Troyes. So I mean, it doesn't look good for Gazellec or Reims. So I still believe. Not really sure if Toulouse are going to win at Angers, but I still believe that they are going to stay up.
It's a difficult game to judge, Eric, for Toulouse. I mean, a point might be enough, but a point might also be nowhere near enough. Do they have to really go for the win at Angers?
Yeah, I think so. I think that Lorient have shown over the past few weeks that they're really not at the races, and I think that I would give Gazellec the advantage there. I do believe that Gazellec are going to go to Lorient and get 3 points. I think that does force Toulouse to win, and I don't know if they've got it in them. I see the results for next weekend being a Gazellec win, a Toulouse draw, and a Reims loss, which would allow Gazellec to stay safe with the other two being relegated. I think that Lyon, even though they've accomplished what they want to this season, I think that just the way that teams approach things this in the second half of this season aren't going to lay down. They're going to be the PSG, the Marseille, and be the spoiler for these relegation-threatened teams by playing at their highest level.
It's a difficult one to judge, isn't it? I mean, looking at the games personally, I think an away to Angers is not ideal, but something you wouldn't mind at the same time. They are not competing for anything anymore. They've not been as good in that second half of the season and aren't going to be a terrible obstacle for Toulouse to face at any point. As you said, Eric, it looks like Lorient are down tools really in the last couple of weeks, but at the same time, I don't think Gazellec have the firepower or the grit really going forward enough to go out and grab the win that they need. I could quite easily see that finishing as a 0-0 draw, and I don't know.
Or even a dodgy 1-0 win for Lorient.
Yeah, that it could quite easily be something like that, just because Gazellec don't look like they're gonna batter down the door. They needed. I think an early goal will settle them. I think they would need something early on, and then that Lorient aren't necessarily going to come back from that. That's what they need, and. It's going to sound strange, but do Lyon turn up at the weekend against Reims? It's a difficult one to call. You'd think they would, but with second practically assured, Reims desperately can only win. If Reims draw, they're out because they won't be able to pass Toulouse's goal difference, so they will be relegated if they draw. They'll obviously be relegated if they lost. They have to win.
Unless Toulouse lose 5-0.
Yeah, which
could happen.
But then,
I don't think it will.
And then it matters on Gazellec as well, doing something that's different. I mean, it gives. I don't know. It's such a strange thing to think with Reims' form recently not being really good enough and not deserving of going up. But it's just one of those games where you're absolutely backs against the walls, need a win. I mean, the others could do with a win, and a win will be important. But have they got enough to really? When your back's against the walls, I think Reims might just do it. It's going to be a very interesting end of the season, isn't it, Philip? With those three, really, it could be anyone really staying up.
And yeah, it's it really, for me, it really is a case of too little, too late for us. I mean, it's not like they didn't have the chances to win football matches before. Now they're going to host the second best team in the league. Just lose at Marseille. That means not good. Lose at home to Montpellier, who was safe. Not good. Lose at Troyes. I mean, it's just too little. It just seems all the more baffling why they changed the manager after that loss at Nice. This is what I think all three of us can agree is completely illogical. Completely illogical, and we still don't really know why he got replaced, and how we could just expect a new guy to say, okay, we've got games against Montpellier and Marseille, we're going to win all three of them, and we're gonna stay up, no problem. It was really bad management, and to me they're already down. I mean, I just can't see them. I can't see past something like a 2 or 3-0 Lyon win.
Well, the strange thing is we all seem to be picking different teams, but Eric, again, is it more of a case of Lorient not being good enough that pushes Gazlec over the line, and the other teams not doing enough that eventually see someone safe? It's strange as it might sound.
It's a combination of the two. I think that, for me, I think that Gazlec and Toulouse both deserve to stay up. I think Reims deserve to go down. I think that this appointment of Guillon, who's totally made a hash of things in the run-in, means the club have made a huge mistake. And again, he's totally messing with personnel. Anthony Weber's on the bench. Mohamed Fofana, again, hasn't played in months. Comes in to start alongside Mondi. At least he puts Mondi back on the right side of the center backs. But it's just, I don't understand, what this manager is trying to prove with the personnel that he's played. And for that, they've reaped their rewards. Four losses in a row, and they're playing a Lyon team that, even if they say start Fekir, Gaetan Perrin, and Valbuena as their front three, resting the habitual front three, I still think would give Reims enough to think about. It's self-inflicted. For Gazlec, yeah, I mean, Lorient are on the beach, and I think that they stand a good chance to win, but I wouldn't count Toulouse out. I just have a feeling that Angers have played with a lot more defensive resoluteness this season, and whereas Lorient have been a little bit more leaky at the back, and perhaps might see themselves as being a little bit of an easier mark, if you will.
Yeah, and there's just so many permutations on that final day. Like we mentioned, it's going to be really, really interesting on those Saturday evening kickoffs, and I don't know. I just think that although football can be cruel sometimes, I think, and like you mentioned, I think Toulouse and Gazlec have done enough, probably equally, to stay up. But it would be football at the end of the day. Reims should have been safe a couple of weeks ago when they had those games that really they should have won, especially Troyes and Montpellier. And they go in a game where they're not expected to win, get the 3 points, others slip up, and they do it again. It's just how I think football goes sometimes. But like we say, wait until the weekend. It's going to be a very, very interesting final weekend in Liga. We talk now on to Les Bleus, as the manager Didier Deschamps will announce his 23-man squad on Thursday, with 7 reserves. So we at Get French Football News thought we should choose our own national squad to take to the European Championships. There'll be 3 goalkeepers, 8 defenders, 6 midfielders and 6 forwards. That will be the skeleton of our squad. So we'll start with the men between the sticks. I want you gentlemen to state your case for 1 goalkeeper each, and as I will join as well, and then we will bring to a consensus. So I'll ask you, Philip, first. Who would be your goalkeeper to bring?
Lloris.
And why?
Because he's the best. There's no question. Mandanda has had a fantastic season, and but Lloris has I reckon marshaled the Spurs defense quite well. I mean, Spurs have had a great season as well. I think it would be a really huge surprise if Mandanda started in place of Lloris against Romania for the first game. I think Mandanda and Rucci actually will get a couple of games in friendlies.
And I think we'll all agree that Lloris definitely deserves a spot. That's Eric. Who will you join in that party for goalkeepers?
I think Stefan Danda. I mean, again, those two always pick themselves, but Mandanda. The argument could have been made perhaps last season and the season before that Mandanda was continuing to get picked based on reputation. But I think this season he's absolutely disproved that. He's been, easily the best goalkeeper in Liga, and I think maybe he's given Lloris a little bit more of a challenge than he has over the past 4 or 5 years, and perhaps deserves a start. Say if France win their first two matches and it looks like they're set to go through, maybe Lloris gets a start in the third group stage match or something like that. Or sorry, Mandanda gets a start in the third group stage match. I think that his accomplishments over the season have been really impressive.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone would disagree with you that, and Philip mentioned it briefly, that really Mandanda deserves to be in that squad, as does Lloris. I mean, the final goalkeeper really comes down to two men, in all honesty, and that's probably Stéphane Ruffier and Benoit Costil. And based on the form they've had this season, I would and in previous seasons probably as well, that reputation as well, I think Stéphane Ruffier just about nudged out Costil. I think he's much more of a consistent goalkeeper, especially this season. I think Costil's made a few mistakes in important games for Rennes that's really curtailed the European challenge that looked quite strong a couple of weeks ago and has completely fell off a cliff. Ruffier is just a safe pair of hands. If one of Lloris or Mandanda is injured, then he's certainly up to the task of sort of moving up that billet. Are we all happy of our goalkeepers, those three?
Yeah.
I think for a tournament that France have a chance to win, yes. But I still think there's something to be said for Alphonse Areola. I know he had a very poor match against Liverpool midweek, but I still think that there's something to be said for development. I mean, Ruffier is 29, I want to say, or will be 29 this year, whereas Areola generally looks to be the goalkeeper of the future. I do think that there's an argument to be made Areola to be included in the squad just for the experience of being at a major tournament. Again, Ruffier, gets the nod. I think for me, based on a fine season from him, particularly in the run and moving Saint-Etienne up the table, but also for his previous experience. But I feel like he's being picked almost as a sort of Mikel Landreau at the World Cup in 2014. I mean, this is a player who's never going to see the pitch, doesn't necessarily have a real future with the national team, being that Mandanda and Lloris are only 2 and 1 years older than he, respectively. Be nice to see Areola get a little bit more time as acknowledgement for his performances with Villarreal this season. He has, I believe, the third best goals conceded average in La Liga, which is a really impressive figure given that Jan Oblak is going to be one of those, no question. So a great season for the youngster, the loss to Liverpool notwithstanding. I think there's some merit to be given to his inclusion in the national team going forward.
I would absolutely agree with that, Eric. But you mentioned it very briefly at the start of it, and this is a tournament that France probably desperately want to win. And I think because of that, simply because it's that kind of tournament and they're the hosts, I think Ruffier deserves the nod just over Areola. I would say, in a strange contrast, if this was a tournament elsewhere, if this wasn't hosted by France, then probably Areola gets the nod as that experience for the tournament. But because this is so important to French football and France feel they have a real chance of winning, they need the best and most experienced goalkeeper available. If someone like Lloris or Mandanda, or even both, heaven forbid, get a little bit of a crazy injury. So we'll stick with the three we've had, but a very good case nonetheless that Areola has definitely had an excellent season with that superb Villarreal defence, especially in Liga. Move on to the defenders now. Philip, I'm going to get you to pick a right back, a left back, and a centre back for me. Who have you got in your three to choose?
Just one centre back.
Yeah, and then I'll pick.
Okay. So I'm choosing Senya at right back, Evra at left back, and Varane at centre back.
Okay.
Sagna because I think he's better than the other one I'm picking. Evra for the same reason. I think he's due his last tournament. I think he'll have a good tournament. He did have a good season with Juventus, and Varane because I think he is France's best centre back.
Eric, who would you pick?
Well, Christophe Jallet, again, somewhat reluctantly. I think his forms. He played very well at the weekend, but his form's been a little uneven the last 2 months. But I think he's generally been very reliable for Lyon and for France. Maybe he doesn't offer quite as much as you'd like on an international scale going forward, but is generally pretty dependable. For a center back, Laurent Koscielny, and for a left back, Luca Dean, just because of the way he's been included in the squad. But that's who I think Deschamps will pick. Who I would pick, honestly, I pick Gaël Clichy over Dean based on this season. I know Clichy's in the wilderness for a number of reasons, but I think he's had a very quietly sound season for City this year. I think probably deserves it over Dean.
Okay, I think my two selections to add to those few are obviously having to be centre backs with Sakho probably missing the tournament almost certainly, with Zuma definitely out for the tournament. I think Samuel Umtiti has to be one. He's had a superb, especially second half of the season with Lyon, and is really a player they want to consider in the future of the national team as well, especially with the other great centre backs they have on choice. And then you get a little bit difficult of who you pick. And for me, I think it's Loic Perrin. I think although he's not had a lot of caps for France, he's very experienced. He's a very wily defender. He's been superb again for Saint-Etienne, as he pretty much always is, let's be honest. He's a very stout defender that would, if they need to call upon him, they know he's reliable enough to bring that experience with them. Is there any objections to those? Is there anyone else we would like to see in instead of another?
No.
I wouldn't actually like to see him, but I think he will be in the squad because what also the choices I'm picking are what I really think Deschamps will be picking on Thursday, but I just know that Eliakim Mangala won't be in the squad just because he's a Deschamps player, even though he's not the best centre back in the world. I would think not playing as a starter in the big games, like against Spain or what have you. But I just can't see Deschamps taking Perrin over Mangala. I just can't see it, and I just can't see him not taking Evra, which makes one of Clichy or Dean. I mean, to me, Dean is really far from getting picked because of what because maybe of who he plays for and stuff like that. It's just Deschamps taking his players.
And that seems to be sometimes the case with the French national team. But this is our team, so Philip, we won't be having. Luckily, thank God, we won't be having a Kylian Mangala, who's not really had a. Let's say it's been a very, very up and down season for the Frenchman at City, and at the very least, we're saying that. So, our defenders at right back, we're going for Bakary Sagna and Christophe Jallet. Although there might be a discussion for Sebastian Corchia, but I think Jallet, with that experience, will go for it. We'll go with the defenders that we've chosen of Varane, Koscielny, Umtiti, and Perrin. And at left back, we'll go with your choice, Eric, of Clichy rather than Luca Dean, and we'll go with also the more obvious choice of Patrice Evra, who probably will be playing his final tournament, I would think. We'll move on to the midfielders. We'll take two each on this one. Philip, who are you picking?
So there's 6 midfielders, so shall I name just 3?
Just 2 on this one.
Just 2? Okay. Matuidi and Pogba.
It's nice that you get to go first, isn't it? Why would you be picking those?
Best performer still from what I've seen. Actually, I was expecting to be naming 3 because I would think France would be playing as 4-3-3. And then it gets really tricky. But to me, Matuidi and Pogba as a standout performers.
Eric, who are you taking?
Going to be a little bit controversial here. I'm going to include Hatem Ben Arfa as a midfielder, and him along with N'Golo Kante. I think that. Sorry.
I was going to say, yeah. Explain it, yeah.
Oh yes, yeah. I think that given the wealth of attacking options that France have, I think that five midfielders, four of France's midfielders pick themselves, and I think we all know who those are. I think that Yohan Kabai's versatility makes him an inclusion, but I don't think Mohamed Sissoko should be included. Moussa Sissoko should be included. I think that Ben Arfa, again, as we mentioned, playing in that role on the right offers a lot more going forward, particularly to make an impact on a match as a substitute, given what Sissoko's displayed this season. And I think that from that count, I would go with those two. Given that the other five can all do a job at various positions in midfield, there's enough positional and tactical versatility there for Deschamps to be able to include Ben Arfa as a bit of a luxury, if you will.
Yeah, and it's nice of me to leave myself to have the last two picks, and difficult picks they are. You've mentioned a few there, Moussa Sissoko, Yohan Cabaye, but neither have had particularly outstanding seasons, really. For their clubs, and both clubs have really struggled, especially in the second half of the season. One nice simple pick. I will pick Lassana Diarra, who has had a solid season for Marseille, although it seems like it will just be the one with the club. And it's a really open pick for the other one. I mean, there's the two names I've already mentioned. There's Schneiderlin, who's not necessarily had the best second end of the season. There's Maxime Gonalon. I think I will go with Yohan Cabaye simply because of his versatility and his experience within the squad. He's able to play that more holding role if needed. He can play the Matuidi role if needed. He's not really someone who should be starting anymore for the French national team, but he's certainly, with the options they have at the moment, fit and in form, he's probably the only one really that you can think of that deserves to be in that spot. Is there any arguments for anyone else to be in the team?
No.
So we'll stick with that's nice and easy then. We'll stick with those six. So it's Pogba and Matuidi, the two certainties. Kante, Ben Arfa as a midfielder, Cabaye, and Diarra. So now we get to the fun ones, I would say, as the six forwards. So I'll let you go first, Philip. Just two again from this section. Who you want to take?
Okay. Griezmann and Martial. Griezmann's goal against Bayern Munich was absolutely sensational. Against Manuel Neuer in the semi-finals of the Champions League, he's probably France's best finisher. Martial for his versatility, actually. He can play on the wing, he can play on both wings, he can play behind the strike, he can play centre forward. So definitely those two.
Eric, who do you have?
Dimitri Payet and Alexandre Lacazette. I think that Lacazette's shown a massive amount of character in the run-in for Lyon, not just his goals, but his tracking back, his tackling, his leadership on the pitch has been really, really impressive for me. I've, again, being a Lyon fan, I've always appreciated him as a player, but I've always been somewhat in doubt about his attitude. But I think that the way he's performed this season under Zinecio has been nothing short of incredible. I think that, I know Ibrahimovic has had the goals, but I think for me, Lacazette's been the player of the season in the second half in France, and deserves an immense amount of credit for what his team have achieved. Dimitri Payet, I mean, that's obvious given the impact he had in the two recent friendlies and the form he's shown for West Ham. And like Philip rightly says, both of these players as well are incredibly versatile, which will allow Deschamps to be able to make tactical switches without having to make substitutions should the need arise.
Yeah, and it leaves me with at least one easy decision of Kingsley Coman joining that group. I mean, he's probably, again, another versatile player that can play on either wing and add probably more of a wider threat as a winger than the other options that we have, maybe other than Dimitri Payet. He's had an excellent season for Bayern Munich. We've seen it in the Champions League as well. really step up to that level that we never quite saw at Juve or at Paris Saint-Germain, but he's really coming on as a footballer now, and I think he's almost certain to go. And then it's between the two big forwards of Gignac and Giroud, and it's probably Olivier Giroud for me. I think just because it will give you a different option if the game is going a certain way, you can bring Olivier Giroud on and he can do something a little bit different. He's good in the air. He played really well against Man City. I'll give him some credit. He's been in poor form recently, struggling for the goals, but he grabbed a great header at the weekend and did a superb little touch into Alexis Sanchez to score the equaliser for 2-2. I think he might just be getting into that right kind of form just when he needs to be to get in that France squad. Is there anyone else we would take in any arguments for anyone else there?
No, reluctantly took Giroud as well in front of... I was actually thinking more of Gamero than Gignac, but Gignac is a great call as well, and I also ended up taking Giroud for his height.
So, with that, if we're accepting, then that's the final piece of our squad: a Griezmann, Martial, Coman, Giroud, and Lacazette and Payet. So that's our 23-man squad. With that in the books, let's talk about some of the people who will miss out, but we could possibly put on reserve as players to come in should anyone get injured. Philip, I just want maybe one or two names from you of ideas of players you would have on that secondary list just in case.
On midfield, I don't really have one for defenders. As I think Loic Perrin will probably be in the 7 that would stand out midfield. I think Schneiderlin will be very, very close, but won't make it eventually. And as we touched upon, I don't think that neither Gamero nor Giroud will be stand-ins as well, but eventually not make the squad.
Eric, who do you have as an extra reserve should anyone get injured?
I think Gamero. I mean, he's got the versatility and the ability. He's had a fantastic season for Sevilla. He's proven himself against multiple big clubs. And again, I think that for his versatility as well, maybe you could make a case for Levin Kurzawa or Sebastian Corsia. I think that France are going to have a real issue at right back in the near future. Mathieu Debuchy. We haven't mentioned him in this conversation, but again, he does have quite a few caps for France. And since his return from injury has really been impressive for Bordeaux. I think that he deserves. I mentioned in the conversation, making the 30. That's a really tough call. Corsia has been doing it all season long, whereas Debuchy's been, basing this on 5 or 6 weeks since returning from his injury during his time at Bordeaux.
I think I have quite an interesting reserve that I would like to throw in the mix. In midfield, with such a central position, Matuidi and Pogba are guarantees, but with so many players like I've mentioned, Cabaye, Sissoko, Schneiderlin, Kondogbia has not had the greatest of seasons either. They need maybe someone a little bit different that's had a good season that might want to show his worth on that top stage, and it might be a little bit too early to be asking for this, but I think Vincent Cogiello might be a reserve. It might be a bit of a risk, and it might be a little bit of left field, but he's had an excellent season for Nice. He's really grown under Puel and learnt from Hatem Ben Arfa. He's clever at going forward. He's good at keeping the ball. He's got good positional sense to intercept the ball when he needs to be. He could be someone that France will definitely be considering in the future. So he might be a name that's thrown up there. There's other names that might be youngsters that, again...
I take Rabiot or Tolisso over him based on what they've achieved for the under-21 team and their club. I know Tolisso's hurt, but I think both of them have a much more impressive track record over multiple seasons. I appreciate what you're saying, Nathan. I do think Cogiello is one for the future, but I think that Rabiot or Tolisso, given their versatility, make a little bit more sense.
I think you make an excellent point about Rabiot though as well. That might be another player they may consider as a reserve with the form of some of these players. Like Moussa Sissoko's been anonymous at times for Newcastle, and that simply can't happen if they need someone. If there is a lot of injuries, or even in the squad, someone like Rabiot might be considered, and other young names that might be considered as Dembele might be considered. Again, it might be too soon, but you never really know with the national teams of any club. And maybe Fekir, it might be again a little bit too soon, but he's such an X factor that even just as a reserve, if someone like Payet gets injured that's got that inventiveness about him, or heaven forbid someone like Griezmann get injured, or Coman, where the creativity is taking a little bit out of the side, someone that can do something a little bit out of the ordinary.
I wouldn't be too surprised to see him in the stand-ins, actually.
Yeah, because he's got that X factor, hasn't it?
Yeah, and plus, if he's in really good form, he could play games and help the team. And as you said, if a true winger gets injured, Fekir would be there to fill in. It would be a great stand-in, but definitely one to start, to be in the full squad. Of course, bearing injuries for Russia. It's definitely one for the future. It would be a good experience for him, of course. But that would depend on Coman or Griezmann or Ben Arfa or some other players getting injured, which we do not hope for.
No, but the real positive, at least, like we've had a big long look at all the squad permutations. There's at least plenty of depth in that French national team, and they hopefully, for their sake, will have a good tournament. But that's all for us for this week. My thanks to Eric and Philip, and to everyone listening at home. Please subscribe to the show on your preferred platform, whether it be iTunes, SoundCloud, or our YouTube channel. We'll be live again next Monday. A bientôt and goodbye.